Hello, everybody. Happy Monday afternoon. Hope yours is going well. We've got another Seahawks video to get to today, but first we just hit 2,340 subscribers to the YouTube channel. I want to give a shout out to all the subscribers, and as always, special tip of the cap goes to the channel members, especially elite channel members HaWKxXAsYLuM, Brandon Mikel, Rip, Scott Todd, Hasher for MVP, VGK Tiger 75, Salacious Crumb, and John Harper. All right, another day, another offensive coordinator candidate for the Seattle Seahawks. We're looking at different people every day. We're interviewing different people every day. The hunt is getting exciting. It looks like we're actually looking at a good variety of different types of offensive coaches we can bring in. So far, in a vacuum, I like the way this search is going. Will it actually lead to anything that I like? We don't know yet, but we're going to keep looking at candidates until we actually make a hire or until I run out of candidates. So today we have a guy who has shown a history of being attached to a couple of very prolific passing offenses, a guy who has done great work as an offensive coordinator in previous years, and a guy who would probably be thrilled to take a job as an offensive coordinator in the NFL. That's right, today we're talking about Pep Hamilton, a former offensive coordinator for the Colts, a former assistant head coach for the Michigan Wolverines, and most recently a quarterback coach for the Chargers. You may also recognize him from the recent attempt at the XFL reboot that didn't quite get off the ground. And yeah, this is a guy who was very early on linked to the Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator position. This is a guy who would make a lot of sense for the team and for himself. So I think it's very important that we take a very close look at him, take a look at his history, and try to determine how we would feel if we got him as our offensive coordinator. So, Pep Hamilton. What can we say about him? First, he's 46 years old. And given his resume and given his history, it's somewhat doubtful that he's in line for a head coaching gig anytime too soon. It just seems like he's somebody who's not viewed as a very realistic head coaching candidate. So if you get him as a coordinator and he's good, he could be your coordinator for a long time. So that's kind of encouraging, I think, because there is a certain level of excitement around getting a good offensive coordinator who you know is not going to be leaving you, kind of like Jim Johnson as a defensive coordinator for the Eagles before he passed away 10 plus years ago. So, what has he done the last 11 years? Well, let's start with 2010. At this point, he was the wide receivers coach for the Stanford Cardinal college football team. And this year, in 2010, the Stanford Cardinal was very good. They went 12-1, and they had one of the best offenses in the league. They scored over 40 points a game, which was top 10 in the country. That's of, over 120 teams. So that's really, really, really good. You may remember this Stanford team for having Andrew Luck. However, they also had a few really high-profile receivers in the form of our old friend Doug Baldwin. He was their number one receiver this year. He caught 58 passes for 857 yards and 9 touchdowns. They also had, I think his name was Griff Whalen, playing receiver. He caught 41 passes for 439 yards and 2 touchdowns. And they also had Chris Owusu, who caught 25 passes for 396 yards and 3 touchdowns. And those were the 3 most high-profile receivers, or wide receivers, rather, on the Stanford Cardinal in 2010. So, not bad as far as a balanced offensive attack goes. And he did so well as the wide receiver coach this year. He got promoted to offensive coordinator in 2011. And in 2011, again with Andrew Luck, the Cardinal was a very, very formidable team. They went 11-2. They scored over 43 points a game, which was 7th in the country. Really, really good. One of the best offenses in the league. And they were balanced. They passed for almost 280 yards a game, and they ran for over 210 yards per game. So they were all around dominant, almost 500 yards per game on average, over 43 points a game on average. Elite offensive stuff. And then the next year, well, it fell off hard. And that's not exactly surprising when you lose Andrew Luck to the NFL. The Stanford Cardinal went 12-2, still a very good team, but their offense cratered to 28 points a game, which was not even in the top half of the country, 72nd. They still averaged 200 pass yards a game and 174 rush yards a game, so they were still a very productive offense in terms of yards. Seems like they may have had some efficiency issues, but it's certainly fair to say things fell off a little bit in 2012. At this point, Pep Hamilton followed Andrew Luck to the NFL and took over as the offensive coordinator of the Colts for Andrew Luck's second year, because the Colts had lost Bruce Arians and figured it would make a lot of sense to go get the guy that he worked so well with in college. And for the most part, this worked pretty well. His first year as the Colts offensive coordinator, the Colts offense was pretty good. They were 14th out of 32 teams, 24.4 points per game. 11-5 record, so they were a good, respectable, formidable team. This is the Colts team that came back from down 4 touchdowns against the Chiefs in the first round of the playoffs. You may remember that game. And, well, they were 17th in the league in passing yards, 233 yards per game, respectable. And they were 109th in rushing yards per game, 20th in the league, right near average, maybe slightly below average. So it was a pretty good and reasonably efficient offense in Pep Hamilton's first year in Indy. The next year, 2014, this was the year the Colts made the AFC title game. They went 11-5 again, but this time the offense went up a peg. They got close to 29 points a game, which was 6th in the league, so one of the best offenses. They averaged over 305 pass yards per game, which was number 1. So the number 1 pass offense in the league. And their rush offense was largely abandoned this year in favor of this passing game. They only averaged 101 rush yards per game, which was 22nd in the league. And then the next year, Andrew Luck missed several games, and the shine was off the apple. They went 8-8, 21 points per game, 24th in the league, one of the lesser offenses in the NFL. Only 232 pass yards per game, which was 22nd, and one of the worst rushing attacks in the league, 29th, 90 yards per game. I believe Matt Hasselbeck started some games for the Colts this year. And, yeah, at this point, Pep Hamilton wasn't nearly as attractive a candidate for something like maybe a head coaching job. So he did get something of a promotion in moving to the Cleveland Browns the following year, 2016. He became an assistant head coach, but is going to the Cleveland Browns ever really a step up? I would say probably not. And the Browns did no favors for him and his resume. They went 1-15 this year. They had one of the worst offenses in the league, 16.5 points a game, one of the worst pass attacks in the league, and a below-average rushing attack, 204 yards through the air, 107 yards on the ground. So that's not doing the resume any favors. At this point, Pep Hamilton returned to college football and became the assistant head coach under Jim Harbaugh for the Michigan Wolverines for 2 years. And he did do some pretty good work here, for whatever that's worth. I think you can give him some credit for the work that was done here at Michigan. This first year, they went 8-5 and had a pretty lackluster offense, 25 points a game, which was 91st. 171 pass yards per game, so a very, very lukewarm passing attack. 178 rushing yards per game, which is quite good for college football. The next year, however, the team showed massive improvement. They went to 10-3. They dropped over 35 points a game, which was 21st in the league, so one of the best offenses in the NCAA. Their passing game improved to 216 yards a game, and their running game improved to well over 200 yards per game. So things trended in the right direction, and he did set the Michigan offense on the right track while he was there. And at this point, he became a head coach / general manager in the XFL, and I'm not going to go over what he did there because it would be pointless and idiotic to try to glean anything from that. So we're going to jump right ahead to his work as the quarterback coach last year of the Los Angeles Chargers. So he got to work with 2 different quarterbacks, mostly Justin Herbert and a little bit of Tyrod Taylor, and the results were actually quite good. The team was average, the points per game were average, but as a QB coach, he did great work with his QBs. Collectively, his quarterbacks threw for 4,500 yards, almost 300 yards a game, 31 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, completion percentage of 66.6, and a QB rating of 98.3. which is really good given the fact that he was working with a journeyman and a rookie. So this is a great piece of Pep Hamilton's resume, and a reasonable reason why you might want to get excited for us potentially bringing him in. All right, so now let's try to score Pep Hamilton. How excited would we be if we brought him in? How likely is this to happen? So first we have feasibility, and I gave Pep Hamilton a 10 out of 10. He's already been linked to Seattle. His name has already been tossed into this offensive coordinator hunt, and it would represent a promotion to a better team and a better franchise. He was currently a quarterback coach, and moving up to offensive coordinator represents an obvious step in the positive direction for his career path. So 10 out of 10, no reason why this can't happen, no reason why either side should be disappointed about getting him. Fit with Pete Carroll, I gave him a 6 out of 10. Clearly, Carroll is open to the possibility of bringing in Pep Hamilton, or else we wouldn't be considering him, because obviously Carroll has a lot of clout in this decision. However, he's surprisingly pass happy in his career so far. If you take a look at some of the work he's done, he was a wide receiver coach and a quarterback coach, so that tells me that he's somebody who likes to pass the ball. And his most successful year as an offensive coordinator came when he had Andrew Luck leading the league in passing yards per game. And he worked with Andrew Luck at Stanford. So seems to me that he has a proclivity for pass-first offenses. Outside of what he did with the Wolverines, these teams are really not very good on the ground. In fact, most of them are below average. So that's interesting. I think it's encouraging that Carroll might be open to somebody like this, but yeah, it doesn't strike me as a great fit with Pete Carroll. Not to say that that's a bad thing. Moving on, and in that conversation, we have fit with the modern NFL. I gave him an 8 out of 10. His work with Justin Herbert in 2020 was great. He turned Justin Herbert into a Rookie of the Year. I'm not saying Herbert had nothing to do with that, obviously, but you have to give Pep Hamilton some credit as the quarterback coach for the way Herbert played this year. And also, I really like that Colts offense from the early Andrew Luck years, personally. I think that offense did a lot of things well. I think that offense did a lot of the things that I would like to see this offense do. The 2014 Colts offense was one of the best in the league, like I said, and they did it through the air. So I think his fit with the NFL is pretty good. I do have some questions because his recent work in the as anything more than a quarterback coach is not very good, but I think the fit is there. Overall score, I would say 7 out of 10. I would not be jumping up and down out of my seat if we got Pep Hamilton as the offensive coordinator, but he wasn't the milquetoast, boring coordinator that I was kind of thinking he was when I first started looking at him. He's actually had some very prolific passing offenses. He's not a run offensive coordinator at all, which is what I was thinking when we got involved in this. The teams he's coached that ran the ball a lot tended to be the teams that were really, really good and had no reason to be passing the ball because they would be up by 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Now, granted, he hasn't worked with a great offense since 2014. The best work he's done since 2014 is probably what he did as the QB coach last year, and that was on an average team and an average offense. So, if we got Pep Hamilton, I wouldn't be super excited about it. I wouldn't be upset about it. On the whole, I would be open to the possibility of this working out for us. So, that's my look at Pep Hamilton. Check in tomorrow. We're going to be taking a look at another likely offensive coordinator candidate for the Seahawks. See you guys then. See you guys in stream tonight. Peace out. Go Hawks. Let me know in the comments what you think about Pep Hamilton, and another candidate down.